All right, what's up, my brothers? We got a sponsored video here from a gentleman who's been betrayed a few times in his life, and he's struggling with trusting people and moving past these betrayals. So let's get into the backstory. Looks like there's two long-term relationships that contributed to this. One long-term relationship from 4 to 5 years. He said it lasted in his early 20s. They were dating and working towards marriage. I know I wasn't maxing out in my life. Guys, in your 20s, women will generally overlook your successes. Women don't have a lot of patience if you're in your 40s, for example, and you're unsuccessful. If you're a hot dude in your 20s, you should be able to do just fine. But work towards chasing excellence, of course. Don't leave it too late. The sooner you begin, the greater you get to, the greater amount of time you get to enjoy the rewards. Okay, so he wasn't maxing out himself in life. X ended up cheating on him after getting attention from a guy at work. He said, I blame myself a lot and started to work on myself. The signs were there. She started to party. Her lifestyle changes. He says, I just missed it all. He says the ex at the time blamed him for not asking her to marry him sooner. So it's his fault for not asking this hoe to marry sooner. That's why she cheated, apparently. Fellas, women will be women. I'll get into a lot of that in a little bit later on in this video. But he said shortly after that breakup, purchased his first rental at 25, took a job in a stable pay, and he moved his biz to a side hustle. Okay, so the second one that sounds like betrayed him, he was single after a year from the prior girl, so it's around 26 now. Met a girl in a dating app. She's young, family-oriented, 0 notch count. That's interesting. Good family relationship. He says, I married her within 6 months. Ooh, a little too fast. You made a mistake there. You do not want to hop into a marriage that quickly. Women can act for a year, year and a half. Sometimes people find that they date the representative and the person they marry is not the same person or the person they thought they were going to get involved with. My recommendation, again, is about a year, year and a half to see what she's made of. Make sure that her actions match her words, okay? Anyway, he marries her after 6 months, and they were working on kids. 18 months of marriage, around 2 years total length of time he was with her. He said there ended up being fertility challenges with her, and he was busy with work and business. He said they drifted a little bit and started to have marriage problems. She asked for a divorce 3 times. They did counseling, but it was just ticking the box for her. During the marriage, she was spending a lot of time with my family member, his wife, and a bunch of kids. Okay, he's not saying which family member, which I thought was good instead of partying. Generally speaking, yeah. The same family advised me her family was going to pay for an expensive lawyer to bankrupt me, so it was wise to get a divorce done quick. So this male family member of him, heard through her that she wanted to divorce this guy, and he was tipped off to it. So seems like a decent guy. So he says, I made up all the papers, I kept everything, she signed, and we were done. Says, I later got blamed by her that if I didn't want a divorce, why did I draft the papers? I looked and found on social media, it's always your fault, fellas. He says, I looked and found out in a social media message that there may have been a sexual fling between her, my family member, and his wife. So the same guy that tipped her off that she was planning on divorcing him apparently also slammed her with his wife. That little threesome, a menage a trois. Betrayal or potential there changed my life. It's been 3 years since I've talked to those family members. Well, I don't blame you. These people were literally rock solid in my entire life. Okay, so he says, I'm 6 foot, around 195, 200 pounds, 34-inch pants, big natural frame, nice beard style. I got a new job leveling up from $50,000 a month to north of 6 figures. Started to hit the gym, TRT going. Why are you doing TRT? How old are you, man? You got to be 30. A little bit too early, but we'll talk about that some other time. Going to a lot of dates, apps not the best as you've mentioned in videos. The failed marriage bothers me. I've always been family marriage minded. Well, that's the plugged in version of yourself you're still battling with, my friend. Read my book over again. It'll help you get a little more clarity. That's pinned in the top comment below, by the way. I've always been of the mind to take all of the blame and fault as something I can control. That's not a bad thing. They always say that the world will be easier on you if you're tougher on yourself. I think I've always lived my life that way. And while you might feel like you're doing too much to push yourself, and others might mirror that, hold up a mirror and sort of show it to you, it can be a empowering place, if that sounds correct, because when things don't work out for you, you take a look at yourself and you say, okay, well, what did I contribute to this? How did I break this thing, whatever it happened to be? Anyway, control fix. I have a problem with trusting people. How do you move past betrayals like that? My big goal is to own a land house in the country, but prices are high. How do I learn to embrace the intern? I am working to get a fast car and do cruises since I'm a car guy. Sad you got rid of the McLaren, but the Porsche is a solid choice. Yeah, you guys will see a video on the channel talking about the differences between those on rallies shortly. All right, so his main question is, how do you move past betrayal? And he's kind of asking a little bit about this business thing that he's doing. Let's get on the road and chop this one up. All right, so we'll deal with this in two parts, I guess. The betrayal part and his little question about his, business venture empire thing. Look, I think that one of the problems that a lot of guys always struggle with, that I see that pops up time and time again, over and over again, is surrendering. There's certain things in life that you can't control. I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's only one part of the universe that you have full and absolute control over, and that's yourself. You have control over your thoughts, you have control over the kind of results you get out of life. People that don't take ownership, I would keep them away from you. Keep them at arm's length at a minimum. More than that would be an even better idea. But that's just the reality of sapiens, as we are as a species, right? I mean, you're going to be betrayed, you're going to be lied to, people will dupe you. Human beings are deceptive creatures. We just are. When somebody shows you who they are, you got to believe them. And I think that surrendering to the reality of human nature is what guys struggle with. You create the safe world theory in your head, and it's really just a house of cards. You tell yourself, well, let's use marriage as an example. Well, if I go to the church and I attend, join the parish, family likes me and all this sort of stuff. We have the ceremony, we pay for everything, the reception, the dinners, the I-dos. You take your vows, you take those commitments. They're supposed to be taken very, very seriously, right? In sickness and health, in richer and poorer, till death do us part, blah, blah, blah. And we believe, this safe world theory. As long as you take the vows and you do everything, nothing will ever change. And what a lot of guys, end up discovering is there's nothing really farther from the truth than the reality of life, where 50% of marriages end in divorce. So why would you enter a marriage thinking this is solid? Nothing's going to happen here that's going to go sideways or anything like that. We're good because I got it figured out over everybody else. And then what ends up happening with most people is it doesn't work out that way. And then there's the other half of the people that stay married, where, believe it or not, they did some research on this topic, and after 8 years, something like less than 3% of couples are still in a state of bliss. Less than 12% are in a state of love. So there's a lot of people that stay together over a long period of time just because they can't get out of it, or they don't have the financial resources to get out of it, or they're not good looking enough to untie that knot, where you get married sort of thing. So there's a lot of factors that come into play with something like this. And again, going back to the original point, surrendering, see the world as it is. You have to surrender to the fact that the sun is hot and water is wet. If you go into water and you try to breathe air, you will find that that won't work out very well for you and you will die, right? So surrendering to the fact that you cannot breathe air underwater is a simple example. Surrendering to the fact that if you go and sit out in the sun and you're a pale-skinned Caucasian, you will get a sunburn that day. You will be red like a lobster, and it will be very, very, very painful. That's something that you have to accept. And if you don't surrender to that, you will pay the consequences. That's what consequences are. They're telling you that you didn't believe what was going to happen, and then there's an outcome which you don't expect that you get, that you don't like, that you then have to deal with. So, how do you move back past betrayal? Just surrender to human nature. People will betray you. Women will betray you. They will cheat on you. All this, we're a monogamous species stuff. There's an entire chapter in my book that deals with the reality of how monogamish we are. We're not a monogamous species. We're monogamish, kind of. It's usually one person at a time, meaning that we move from one person to another. In some cases, there's multiple people simultaneously, right? So thinking that, things won't ever, she won't bang the guy at work, for example. It's why when I tell you guys over and over again, you shouldn't be dealing with women that go out partying. You shouldn't be letting a girl that's, gotten into a long-term relationship with you. She should generally say, where do we stand? I want to be committed to you. I want to claim you, sort of thing. And that's when you make a decision on whether or not you want to take her into your life. But if you've gone through that step, you should be able to say to her, no, I can't remain serious with a woman that goes away to Vegas, to party. Because it's like parking your nice car in a shit neighborhood and leaving it unlocked. Maybe nothing will happen that night, but the chances of something happening go up when you leave a nice car unlocked in a shitty neighborhood, right? So it's making better choices and understanding things for what they really and truly are, and stop making up these bullshit lies in your head. That's all that, if anybody's betraying you, it's you betraying yourself. And I know that you're real tough on yourself, and I think that you'll get it when I say this, is that you betrayed yourself by believing the bullshit lies, by plugging into society's comforting lies and believing that stuff. And that was really the entire point of my book, The Unplugged Alpha, is to unplug from life's comforting lies with the cold, hard, uncomfortable truth. That's just what it is. So if you haven't read my book, my friend, read it. So that's really my answer to betrayal, is surrendering to the reality of the world as it is, not as you want it to be. Once you can do that, you will live very, very well. You will understand things as what they really and truthfully are. And that gives you an opportunity to prepare a little bit better. It gives you an opportunity to not expose yourself to unnecessary risks or put yourself in a situation where there can be compromises or damage or financial damage or, heartbreak and stuff like that, right? It's like, putting yourself into it's about managing your life and risk, and again, dealing with these things as they truthfully are. So women will betray you, your friends may betray you, you'll get into business transactions that you'll feel betrayed on or lied to. It just happens. Humans are deceptive, so accept that. Talking about your little business venture, well, my man, I don't really have enough information. You didn't mention which country you live in, what the rural areas are, but as a general rule, when it comes to chasing excellence, what I tell guys is make sure you're well diversified. You don't have all of your assets in one pot. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's many, many reasons for that I've talked about several times. Diversify. So don't go all in on real estate. Maybe get your hands on a little bit of crypto. Get into the stock market with the appropriate stocks and the appropriate conditions and all these sorts of things. Educate yourself on that. But I wish you the very best. You're still a very young man, and you unplugged younger than I did. Make sure you check out my book. It's pinned below in the top comment, with a bunch of other useful links, including my supplement line, my website, and all the other stuff. So go check it out. If you have any experience, as this gentleman has shared, leave a comment below and let us know what you did. See you guys later. Peace out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.